Hey everybody, Tony D. With a screenwriter's take on the Dave Chappelle, currently his final comedy special. Not his final, but his final one for his contract. The Closer, or Closer. And it's on Netflix right now. I just watched it. And I gotta tell you, man, he's so good. It's really good. You really gotta say it. And I just wanted some thoughts on it. I mean, obviously, from screenwriting perspective, there's nothing here to talk about screenwriting, but I just wanted to talk about comedy because, man, I just was thinking how I would. I saw guys like Chappelle and Chris Rock and a few other comedians. I'd see them on TV before they got really big and had comedy specials, and they would just put them in the dumbest things, right? They just they just wouldn't do things that match their comedy, and they're so funny. I mean, the amazing thing about Chappelle is he really comes from a place of truth, and that's to me the best comedy. That there's a lot of truth in it. There's also a lot of exaggeration, obviously, but and he really goes in this special in risky areas that no other comedians that other comedians are like petrified, and even to some extent, Chappelle is a little scared going out on this ledge that he goes on, um, because he talks a lot about the trans community, his friend Daphne, and what eventually happened to her, and he manages to still make jokes about it, and while telling a story that feels genuine and is important, while getting into the nitty gritty of, I don't want to say race relations, but community relations. I'll say the black community versus, say, the LGBTQ plus IA community, and he goes after cancel culture in a big way, talks about it, says things that, gosh, you just love to hear. You know, things like, how horrible it is that people are being canceled, and it's great that he calls this stuff out. He just calls it out for what it is in a real way. Some real belly laughs in this show. You can't really get too into it without giving away some of the jokes. But there's a real genuineness to Dave, because he's still talking about things that happened on his show, things that happened backstage. He goes out a lot and interacts with people. He talks about stuff like that. And I say that because he's pretty famous. And so for him to go out to like a bar and get drunk, it's kind of risky for him when you think about it. Like, he's out at a bar getting loaded and interacting with people. Now, he's probably not alone, obviously. I don't think he is. He might be. Sounds like he is when he tells the story sometimes. But I don't think a guy worth as much money as him and as famous as him will go out without a crew. He always seems to be around people. There's a great photo montage at the end of the special, like in the previous ones, of just him on tour with various famous people that he met. And, it's just, the whole set was just really positive. Even though there were some dark moments, I guess you'd say, or some dark subject matter to a certain extent, you just come away from it feeling good. And at the same time, I just keep wondering, how does Hollywood keep ruining comedians? How many comedians have they completely ruined that I don't know about? Like guys who they put in stuff that are in stuff right now. I mean, look at SNL and what a train wreck it is. How many of those guys are genuinely funny, but they can't do anything genuinely funny? That they're trapped. That they're trapped on the show, trapped in their contract, doing a bunch of BS when they could be doing, a real high wire act that you would love, and that would just absolutely make the ratings of SNL explode. But you can't. Everybody's self-censoring. Who was it that was saying? I think one of the YouTubers was saying that Bill Burr was doing a lot of self-censoring until he talked to Dave Chappelle, and thank God he did. I mean, Chappelle, he's a high wire act of comedy right now. He's at his peak, and I really was a little worried going into this because the special before, and even some of the opening about him being paranoid of the virus was I was a little worried he was going to go into a whole virus pandemic thing, but he kind of didn't, and I think it was mostly just him telling jokes about it. It's telling a joke about a woman coming up and using a lot of H's. Hi, how you doing? Kind of thing, and worried about, getting sick or whatever. And he actually got sick, and he talked about that. So, this is what comedians need to be doing, and you just look at what's out there, especially in late night comedy, and compared to that, I mean, this is just, it's so refreshing, and quite frankly, I needed a good laugh. I read way too much news, or at least the headlines, and it gets kind of depressing after a while. And so thank you to Dave Chappelle for bringing a smile to my face, bringing laughter to my heart, and really, it's just, I always judge things that I really, really like if I feel inspired by them. And when I see a really good movie and I feel inspired, I used to come home and then work on a screenplay. This made me feel inspired to write some more comedy, to just do some more writing. It's just good stuff. So Dave Chappelle, Closer, check it out on Netflix. I know Netflix, but what are you going to do? He had a contract. But it's really worth seeing. I mean, I have Netflix for free, and I'm glad. For a long time, I tell you, I'd look at stuff on Netflix and I just go, I really wish I could cancel this, even though I'm getting it for free. I wish I could delete my account. That's how bad I think a lot of the stuff on Netflix is. And this was the first time in a while that I was like, oh, I'm so glad I could watch this. So thank you, Dave. And that's it for me, Tony D, with a Screenwriter's Take. Check me out on Bitchute and Rumble. And I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and little Joan, she's asleep on the couch. I don't want to disturb her.